Hey.
Hello, good evening.
Oh, I am here finally with Miss Shayna. So, for those who may not know me and possibly traffic that has come over from Miss Shayna's followers or friends on Facebook, if you will, my name is Tameka Conley. Professionally, I go by Healthy Hair by Tameka. And this week, I have decided to bring what would have been a person to person seminar in the fall, bring it to the virtual platform on this week with a virtual conference entitled 360 Degrees Total Body Makeover. And all week long, I've been talking about the fact that oftentimes people we look at these talk shows where people go in and they have their hair and their makeup and clothes redone, but we never really dig into the inside of what they really feel like. So I'm the kind of person where I often wonder, well, what do they feel like when once they get home and they're forced to adapt to this new reconstruction that was someone else's vision that may not have been their own. So this week I've invited friends along to join me in conversation. We talked about making over with nails, with hair, with skin. Yesterday, we talked about having a made up mindset for a new diet and not aborting the process with just boredom snacking and things of that sort. But tonight, we are talking about the mind. Because in totality, we want to be well, mind, body, and soul. And so that's why I've invited Miss Shayna on. And I want you now, Shayna, to introduce yourself, tell us little bit about what you do, and then we'll dive into the conversation.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tamika, for inviting me. I just want to take time to honor you on your platform for just being so creative and then having a mind and a heart for people, right? Not only are you a licensed cosmetologist and educator, but you have a heart for people, and that's a blessing. And most of all, we share that bond with just having a love for science and chemistry and how that
Absolutely.
all goes together, right? And so my name is Shayna. I am a clinical mental health counselor. I am also the founder of Treasured Mind LLC. And I have the pleasure of working with individuals who have been diagnosed with clinical diagnoses such as depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, different of that nature. I also work with individuals who do not have a clinical diagnosis. However, they may go through different trials or hard times in life, just needing that encouragement, that boost skills, coping strategies, someone to talk through just mindsets and shifting and moving forward in life. My everyday journey, I work at a hospital, so I'm a crisis worker. I work in the emergency department, so I get a chance to see individuals when they're going through episodes, when they may arrive suicidal, they may have even attempted
Mm,
suicide at a point of time. I also work with elders, just making assessing them in the community, making sure that they have their needs, the needs that who I guess who are entitled to government assistance, making sure
hmm.
they have their needs in the community to live well, whole, safe lives as well. So those are some of the things that I
That's a whole lot.
do.
That's a whole
Yeah,
lot. I would
yeah,
imagine, especially on a daily basis. I know that even with what I do, I have to make sure that I try and decompress on my journey home because I've heard so much, taken in so much. Where because as you know, once people begin to get relaxed, then they begin to reveal more and more about the things that could possibly be a burden to their hearts or weigh heavy on them, or simply just being in a place of in between. And so
yeah.
I try to decompress on the way home so I don't carry that over into my house. So hats off to you because I haven't even experienced any conversations yet behind the chair, God forbid, where people are thinking of ending their own lives from just being overloaded with too much. So, with that being said, given our current state of being, our current place of panic and pandemia and this pandemic, um, a lot of people are going through, myself included. People
All
in my
of
profession overall, we've unfortunately have been forced out of being able to work. unexpectedly. It's one thing to plan for a vacation, but it's something totally different to have your livelihood snatched up from underneath you. So tonight, if you could just speak a little bit about healthy ways for all of us to cope during this pandemic. But I don't know. Let's, I guess, start with the adult because and then maybe the children or whichever way you want to do it first, because a lot of the time, maybe start with the kids because they're the audience that seems to be forgotten as it relates to internet church, this, that, and the other. And there has really been a strain placed on these babies. They aren't able to graduate. They aren't able to properly say goodbye to their friends before summer break begin. All of those kind of things. So, can you give the parents some idea of what to look for or how to help their babies through this process?
Absolutely. During COVID-19, my heart and prayers go this goes out to all of the families who have maybe lost loved ones during this time, and
Mm-hmm.
then who just including all of us who are just trying to figure out the quote unquote new norm. What is
Mm-hmm.
our new norm? Breaking routine, breaking what we once kind of had gotten into a gist of, whether it was with family, simple as things as grocery shopping, taking our children to daycare and schools, just going to work every day. Our life has just kind of been flipped inside out, to I guess to sum it
To
up,
say the
um,
least.
to say the least. Absolutely. And one thing that is very interesting that you brought up children, adolescents, is that there is a very high rate. Actually, we see the highest rate in teenagers as well as men when it comes to suicide. Most these two geographics of people most of the time do not have the words or ability to express their emotions, to put words on how they're feeling, things that they're struggling with,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes they suffer in silence because they don't want to, be a burden at times. They don't have the language or verbiage to put to whether I'm feeling anxious and worried or I'm feeling depressed. I don't have, I'm isolating. And so some of those things that we have to look at when we are looking at our children or covering our children and also our teenagers as well. So one thing that I wanted to address is that we have to make sure that I believe in prayer, right? We have to cover
Mm-hmm.
our children in prayer. Prayer, not just praying. Of course, we may pray every day, but we want to pray strategic prayers, right? We want to pray for the
Yeah.
covering of their minds. We want to pray for their surroundings. We want to pray for their friends, those that are attached to them, because 9 out of 10, when they're going through something, they will search and find a friend, even social media, to give them that ease, that cushion, that pillow, that comfort, maybe before they seek their parents. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
important that we are checking in on our children, not so much. I mean, there's different levels, of course. Um, you know, Teenagers, you want to have boundaries. You want to have an open policy where they feel comfortable being able to talk to you. You want to have boundaries where there's talk time. That's one thing that I had incorporated newly with my family: talk time. Talk time, pulling them away from games, pulling them away from tablets, pulling them away from iPads, sitting down, because to be honest, we are taught how to express emotion. It's not something that we learn automatically. And so if we're never taught how to properly do it, how to express anger, we may then begin to see people lash out. And honestly, this can transition into our adulthood. So as children, as
Whew.
parents, as elders, as groundkeepers, as watchmen over our generations to come, it's our duty as adults to guard them, to cover their minds and prayer, and to have that talk time with them, to talk about what's going on. Just as we watch the news and we see different things that may come on, whether it's a clip or a commercial, when they're watching tablets, they're doing their TikTok, their Facebook, their Instagram, right? There's also the same commercials and things that are coming up. And so having that talk with them, letting them know it's okay to have emotion. It's okay
Yeah.
to have fear at times. It's okay to not to be anxious or worry at times, but we can't stay there. And so the only way they will learn how to move through that moment, move through those experiences, is we have to teach them. We have to talk to them about it.
So, you made mention of the proper way to talk about and express anger. Um, I know oftentimes when people, I'll say it like this: people sometimes believe that an argument becomes a death of a thing. So just because someone doesn't agree with you does not necessarily, I believe, mean that they're against you. So can you talk to us about a healthy way to have a disagreement and then move on?
Absolutely. So what we call that is confrontation, right? All confrontation is not bad confrontation. As adults, as children, as teenagers, we have to learn how to confront a thing, how to deal with a thing. And so there are different layers. Some of us may be passive, where we don't like to get into confrontation, get into argument. We kind of bottle our emotions and feelings up, hold them in, and sometimes release them or display them in other ways. You may see those that may be passive, holding in, trapping their emotions in. They may express themselves by drinking alcohol, smoking. They can be very promiscuous. So these are ways that they have found a comfort in releasing those negative emotions or uncomfortable emotions, right? We have
Mm-hmm.
some who also may be aggressive. So these individuals are pretty vocal, and they may even be fighters in times because they are going to express themselves. They're not going to hold it in. Whatever they're feeling, is they're going to release it, and however you take it, it's on you. And
Mm-hmm.
then we have those that are in between. They're passive aggressive. So they may feel angry inside, but they may release it in, let's say, sarcasm. So they may not directly address the issue head on, but they may say something or release it where it'll cause attention to the area, but it'll never be dissolved. So confrontation, all confrontation is not bad confrontation. Some things have to be addressed. Only way for us to put in strategies, coping, healing, even, we
Mm-hmm.
have to be aware of what's going on. We have to give verbiage and language to what's going on in that situation, to the behavior, to whatever negative emotion you may be feeling, so that we can move forward from that. So, some ways that we can do that is journaling, right? So, you may not feel comfortable confronting someone head on in that moment regarding that situation, but write it down. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe getting it off your chest, getting off your mind, maybe later you can then go back and address the issue. Another thing that you can do is have a friend, right? Get a friend, a sister, a brother, a cousin, someone at your safe place where you can vent to them, get it off your chest, bounce it off to them, because believe it or not, sometimes it's not always the other person. Sometimes it's us, right? And so having that safe place, that person is not going to be a yes man, and they're not going to say, okay, you're right. No, they're going to say, actually, you're wrong. You need to check yourself and you need to get yourself together. Um, so those are two things. Have a safe place, journaling. Another thing would be what we call is like a 5 second rule. So in that moment, in the heat of the moment, in the conversation, in the disagreement, I may not can release and explain myself, but I can actually at least give me 15 minutes. Let me process what I'm feeling. Let me come to grips of how I'm feeling. Let me get over my anger. And then I'll
Mm-hmm.
come back to you and we can talk about the situation in
Yeah.
hand.
That's good stuff. Because oftentimes we're reactive before we actually have a chance to process whatever it is that may be bothering us. So in this season or this situation that we're currently in, families are being forced to be on top of each other, if you will, or spend more time with each other than they may normally. You know, the kids are usually at this practice, that practice, dance recital, rehearsal, this, that, and the other. The parents are either usually working overtimes. Myself, I usually work anywhere from 10 to 14 hours a day on my work days. And so you almost become ships passing in the night. So now we're all being forced to actually live with one another. So there actually may be, in my opinion, some reintroductions going on. Um,
Amen.
yeah. So just as you're married, as I know, Shayna is actually my blood sister as well. So we're married, and so can you speak a little bit on if that has affected you, and how do we navigate those waters where we're now always in the same space with one another without there being a retreat to work or wherever you may go?
Absolutely. So with us, we both, my husband and myself, we're both essential workers, quote unquote. Everyone is an essential worker, but from the governmental standpoint of our jobs actually don't stop, they don't close. At times, even my husband, he's on call many times throughout the week, throughout the month, servicing families, making sure that they have the things that they need, the elders, those who are in life stages, he serviced that population. And my mental health doesn't stop, so our jobs really don't stop. So our life has not really changed as far as having that more time together. It's kind of has been our norm. One thing that he actually was sick for a week. So I did have that opportunity of we were actually in the house all day for a whole week, the whole family, not just him, but also Journey because daycare is closed for her. And it was honestly getting to know each other again. And not to say, and it's not in a bad way, but in a new way. Because I believe that was the most time that we were actually still with one another, although he was under the weather, to actually have to have dialogue and talk and have space and learn. So a lot of us are with our families, and we don't have the luxury of being in a 2-3 storage house. We don't have the luxury sometimes of having 4 or 5 bedrooms. So what do you do when you're in a 2-bedroom apartment and it's your 4 or 5 family, numbered family? And one thing that we talk about is, especially working from home, have your workspace, even at home. You don't have to sit under each other all day. You don't want to get burned out and tired because we're human. We need space sometimes, and we don't want to be clingy or draining to our partners or even our children, right? They feel this too. So have workspace, have a workspace. You may want to work in the front room or in the office, and the other person may want to work in the dining room or the living room. Just create your own workspace so you're not literally sitting on top of each other for the whole time of work, but you have a workspace. Another thing is create a schedule. So I noticed, and I felt it, especially the first week with this, out of 4,000 days, I think we on probably like 4,000 days of quarantine. But the first day, I felt like first week, I felt it, because I didn't have a schedule. So I have a toddler. She's 4. She doesn't understand what's going on. So she sees me looking at a computer working, and she thinks it's turn up time, like, why aren't you giving me attention? What's going on here? I'm sure like that first day she ate like 20 times. I'm like, now for sure they're not doing this at daycare. How? I don't know what's going on. It was difficult. I created a schedule. So every day, we did breakfast. She did her snack, her breakfast, because she has to have a morning snack. We did breakfast. Then I had an actual work time for her. So we did letters, we traced, we did numbers. We recited her birthday. We actually did coloring sheets. And then she's a ballerina, so she does ballet practice. Because of quarantining, she has not been able to go to ballet school. So I actually was able to find on her tablet ballet teaching, like classes that they have on YouTube. So she would actually do that she does it every day. We have a snack time schedule. We have a snack schedule. We have dinner schedule. We have just downtime. So create a schedule, create a system that works for your family. It's not a one size fit all. You have to create what works for you. For those of you who life may not consist of children, you still need a schedule. Your husband, your wife, you want to be able to provide at least some structure, even though kind of like the rug has been pulled from under us. We didn't prepare for this, or we couldn't have prepared for this. We still have control. We have not lost control of our lives. Don't feel like you are living in anxiety or fear. Don't, allow this time to be robbed from you because you're feeling down or depressed or suffocated or struggle. Accept where we are and put in the proper procedures that you need for your family and move forward. Don't be stuck.
Wow, the acceptance piece.
Yeah.
So you talked about being able to give your toddler this set schedule. What about someone who has primary age children or teenagers, God forbid, who are antsy to get outside and to just do something other than sit in this house with these people? Okay. What can parents do to encourage their teenagers to not fall into the steps of depression?
Yeah. So you want to definitely facilitate their relationships, right? There's Zoom, there's Google Duo, so encourage them to have face-to-face time with their friends. They went from seeing their friends every day to now not seeing them, but don't let them know that they can still connect in those ways, calling them on the phone, actually seeing them on their tablets or their phones is a good way. Also ordering games for them, there's a lot of games. My first lady, actually, we do Zooms with my church every day, and she mentioned that she had ordered like beanbag games, from Amazon. Amazon is still delivering non-essential items. So take time and actually order some games that you can play as a family in the home. Play the spade, play the twister, play board games, whatever. Just create that time that you all can have. But also, it's important to have a schedule for them. You don't
Yeah.
want them. You can't, especially if you have more than one. Teenagers, they like to eat a lot. So you don't want them just thinking, have snack time, or, have a snack cabinet where they know, this is their portion, create that structure. You don't want them, because this is just a moment, right? COVID-19 is a moment. We will recover from this. We will move forward from this. We will return to normal living. Well, what was once our norm, we will go back to school, work. So we don't want to get out of that discipline, because honestly, schedules, patterns, create rituals, create discipline. And we don't want to completely lose that, because once we get back to it, it's going to be hard for them to readjust, right? So we want to create as much structure, and honestly, structure also creates safety. So where they are. Allow them to go outside. They can take a walk, gear up, put your gloves on and your mask, take a walk around your neighborhood, take a couple laps, bike ride, around your block. We are not able to go into the mall, no. We're not able to go and sit in our friends' living rooms, no. But we're not in prison, right? Because we think about prison, they have nowhere to go. They're there, but we still have the ability to come and go. It's just limited. So whatever you have, work with what you have, right? You're not shut down. We're not shut down. We're not shut out. So make it fun. Live in a moment.
Now, anyone who's watching, if you have some specific questions that you would like to pose to Shanna while she's with us, feel free to jump on over in the comment section and let us know the things that matter and that are concerning your heart, because we want to touch on those things. Can you share with us some basic signs of depression?
Absolutely. So depression, normally symptoms last for at least 2 weeks. So there are symptoms of just feeling fatigue, difficulty sleeping. Sometimes you can have suicidal thoughts, or thoughts is also ideation, sorry, or have actually attempted. We also notice in teenagers, they may actually try to do superficial cutting or cutting their wrist. Um, you can have difficulty eating. You can have just feeling sad, um, guilty, hopeless, worthless. These are just some of the emotions that you can feel. But the most important piece is that it's going to last for at least 2 weeks, right? Because we are human. So we may have depressed moments, right? If you lose your friend, you lose a loved one, you may feel depressed in that moment, right? And it's justified. We're human. We have a heart. And so you lose your job, you may worry, you may stress.
Okay.
But these are things that are presented from a situation. When you have a chemical imbalance in your mind, sometimes those things, that those emotions, those feelings, that sadness, that depression, that lowness, that worthlessness that you're feeling, it's persistent, and it lasts at least for 2 weeks. So those are some of the symptoms that you'll see.
Someone asks, the comment says, a lot of people seem to feel more tired during this period of quarantine, even though they're able to work from home. Are there any ideas on why this may be happening?
Absolutely. So our body we're a living organism. So movement creates energy. Movement creates energy. It's just physics, it's science. So if we're just sitting and we're just sitting, not doing anything, we're not active, we will feel more tired. You hear that the more sleep you get, you actually wake up feeling more tired than if you were to just get your regular 8 hours of sleep. So we want to make sure during this time we're moving. If that means walking up and down your stairs, if that means taking a walk around your block, going to your backyard, jumping up and down, because me and Journey, we do a lot of just jumping up and down in the living room and the dining room, whatever. Get your body going, get your body moving. Take your breaks. A lot of people working from home, they're not disciplining themselves and having a schedule to just step away from the computer. They're eating and working. They're not taking a break. They're not shutting the computer off. And it doesn't matter if you do it for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour. Take your time. Another thing you want to do is you want to build up your immune system, because it's just not only not moving can drain your energy, but hearing the negative things that have been going on, the news,
Mm,
just knowing COVID-19 exists, is physically draining, mentally
absolutely.
draining. If your mind is drained and is slowed down and you begin to have thoughts of worry, anxiety, and depression, that's draining to your physical man, your physical body. So you want to make sure that you're building up your physical man, taking vitamins, being healthy. You want to make sure that if you are on any type of psychotropic medication, you want to make
Mhm.
sure you have your refills, that you're checking in with your therapist, your counselors, your psychiatrist, your doctors. If you have high blood pressure, you want to, all of these things play a factor. It's literally a circle. We're living organisms. So we have to make sure we're putting in the proper things in our body in order for us, it affects us. If you're sitting at home and you're snacking on poor snacks, you're eating chips and candy and stuff, because honestly, this is an emotional time for people, and some of us are emotional eaters. And so you can begin to intake things that are not healthy for you and that can actually drain you. So you want to be mindful of that. You want to still have a balanced meal. You want to still have a multivitamin if that's, consult with your doctors when it comes to medication. But you want to make
Yeah.
sure that you have these things so that your actual physical man can have energy as well.
You brought up just taking in all of the negativity. I have like put myself on news conference or on news punishment. I'm sorry, where I only watch it once a day. At the end of the day, I believe that that dude is gonna say something else that's stupid, and it's just gonna take me to a whole nother level. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, like I'll scroll through Facebook for a little while, but I'm not watching the news conference but once a day because it, to your point, begins to just be too much, and it begins to consume your emotional being. Even scrolling through Facebook or other social media sites where it's, you see rest in peace, rest in heaven so much now that it's
Yeah.
just draining. So
Yeah.
you have to, even I suggest taking breaks from that sometime as well. I've downloaded Scrabble on my phone at this point. It's like, okay, I need to find a word that does not start with CO.
Right. Or RIP.
Yes, yes, because it has become way too taxing on me emotionally, and just paying attention to yourself. We typically know what it is that's required of. I'm a creative.
Yeah.
I'm all things with my hands, quick with my mind, and putting it into action. Um, and so right now, I don't have any. I have to find things to do with my hands, and
Yeah.
I feel almost like my creativity has been stunted, or someone's trying to put a lid on the top of it. And so, with that being said, just through conversation with other people within my field, they feel very similar, where they are making up things to do. So can you speak to that person who may feel as if they see no light at the end of the tunnel, because they aren't able to, and though we may be able to go back to work at some point, there will still be a new set of criteria, a new guideline that will, in some way, still keep us bottled. So, the moving forward piece, how can we address what has become or what will become our new norm without losing our true identity.
Absolutely. So one thing is that we want to be good stewards of our mind, right? We want to be good stewards of our mind. We want, so a man thinketh, so is he. So we want to constantly feed ourselves with positive affirmation, positive thoughts, the word of God, prayer, because that's what stewards our thoughts, right? Because like you said, we're in the world. We're not in bubbles, we're not excluded from everything that is going on. So it's not to say that we are being insensitive. It's not to say that we don't care, but it's to say, hey, once this is over, where will life then take us? Where are we going to go? And then where I am, how do I not lose myself? It's important to understand that we can be being a creative is a blessing. So don't lose your gift, right? Move in purpose and power. So you may not be able to do what you have been doing, doing hair, being creative, um, coloring hair, doing makeup, going to the mall and shopping, knitting because your supplies may not be on hand, braiding, whatever you used to do, your norm, you may not be able to do that. But start working on your next, work on your new now, right? Work on your new now. Take this time and steward it well. We may not ever get a break as we, because this is really a break, a reset, and a realignment, right? For us to then begin to get actually in purpose. A lot of us was just busybodies, me, myself. I enjoy working. I enjoy making money. But there's times that I've been a busybody, just being a busybody, doing things, picking up work, helping. And you can say, oh, I'm going to help. It's really easy in my field to say, oh, I'm going to help them out. But let's be honest, there's gratification from that working because I enjoy working. But you have to work on your new now. Work on your new now. Work on that business plan. Work on that creative idea. You may not be able to put it in action, but you can begin to build up the steps and plant those seeds now. You can begin asking in prayer, hearing the voice of God telling you your next, so that the next thing you do is going to be in purpose and it's not going to drain you. And when you come out of this, you'll be stronger than you went into this before. So don't lose who you are. Don't lose your creativity. Don't lose your gift. Don't allow those negative thoughts or things that are going around you to zap your zeal. But work on your new now, whatever that new may be. You may want to start your, hey, if you got time to do it, start making your meal plan for the next month. We're going to be in for another 30 days. So you need to go to the grocery store. You need to have your seasonings. You need to have the meat, whatever it may be. Work on your new now. What part of this, because all of this isn't bad. I'm sure if we made a list, we can list a lot of bad things, but we can also list a lot of good things and blessings that we've gained from this time. So what would you take from this moment? What would you like to see implemented in your new next, right? What would you like to see implemented in your lifestyle? You may not want to work 14 hours after this. You may want to cut it down to 10 because you begin to appreciate the time you're able to spend at home with your family. You appreciate the time being able to create, such as you make those creative, yummy, delicious meals that I just watch from Instagram posts, but you may want to take those small things that you've been able to do now to your new. So work on it now. Don't let it stop you. Move
You
forward.
may mention in your commentary about being in purpose, being in your purpose. Can you peel that back for us a little bit? What does it mean to be in your purpose?
Yeah. So I truly believe I believe in God, and I just believe that our number one thing is to give Him glory and to bring Him glory, to um, remind our sisters and brothers, each other, that He exists, and our number one job and duty is to honor Him and to worship Him. And when you do that, that's enough, right? But to peel that back deeper is that He created us with a specific plan and purpose. And how do you know you're walking in that, right? Most times you can sit down and you can list the different gifts that he's giving you, the different talents that you have. What are you good at? What do people come to you a lot about? That may be you keep them laughing. That may be you have a spirit of wisdom, so you're able to pour into them. These are things that you can create grids and make lists. You can even go online and take tests. There's assessments that you can take, and they're actually free. They'll begin to break down some of the things that you may not know that you have inside of you and pull them out. And so, how do you know that you're working in purpose and you're walking in purpose? It's easy. It's easy for you. Whatever you're doing, that you're doing easy, and you have a grace for it. And you can look around and you can do it, but maybe the next person can't. That may be, praying. That may be doing hair. That may be doing nails. You have a passion. You literally feel in your heart that if you're not doing it, you're missing something. You're missing a piece of your life. And that's what continuously draws you to purpose. And do I feel like can we do different things that kind of fix our purpose or kind of molds it and makes it even more narrow and even bring light to it? Absolutely. Every day we grow. So things that we go through, it continuously grows our purpose. And so you'll know when you're walking in purpose because it'll be something that you feel like you can't live without. You enjoy doing it. It brings you just brings you relief. It brings you happiness. And it's like second nature to you. It won't be hard for you.
So the question is asked. There are people who literally who are fearful of going back to work, leaving their house, etc. What do you recommend these individuals do to overcome their fears?
Yes. So fear is false evidence, right? False evidence where we have no, it's just false. It's really not there. And fear is also a spirit, right? So we have to balance that with feeding it with truth, right? Because if it's false evidence, that means that there has to be a truth. And we can only prepare for our next. We don't know what the next or new normal brings. We can't, we're not there yet. I mean, we're still in quarantine. So, and to be honest, they pushed it to May 30th or May 31st at this time, but it can be extended again. We don't know. But we can accept, it comes with an acceptance saying, hey, COVID-19 is here. There is no cure right now. There's no vaccination right now, but I can take precaution. What does precaution look like for me? What you have to identify precautions that make you feel comfortable, that you are able to obtain and maintain, right? So that may be continuing to wear masks, continuing social distance, continuing to wear gloves, continuing hand washing, and then also reaching out for help, right? I don't think any of us will ever be the same after this. For sure, not me. I mean, if I'm outside and I see somebody sneeze or cough, I'm not going to look at sneezing and coughing the same as I did before COVID-19, right? And
Absolutely.
it's because this has been a traumatic experience. You know, it's like it's traumatic, and then knowing that people are continuing to still dying from this, you know, and that there isn't a cure, that there isn't any medication that we can take, right? But what we can do is be precautious. We can take the precautionary steps and actions that we need to comfort us and our family. And so PPE gear, talking to your supervisor, your manager on your one-on-one, taking breaks and time, right? You have to do what's comfortable for you. So we have to counteract fear with knowing that it's false evidence with truth. And that is, I'm alive today. I'm going to do what I can with what I have today, living in the moment.
So what you just said sort of ties in with this next question. Someone's asking, how do you deal with getting misinformation from people that are supposedly leaders or experts? This definitely sounds like political banter, but yeah, let's unplug that. As we all know, yesterday the mere notion of suggesting that we ingest poison, because
Yeah,
essentially that's what a disinfectant is. Um, yeah. How do we deal with that? And it may tie into a little bit what you said, how to erase that notion of fear. We know from a spiritual standpoint, God hasn't given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So I guess the question then becomes in conjunction, um, having a sound mind. What does that
yeah.
look like?
When I heard the statement made by our president, President Trump, to ingest bleach or disinfectant to cure COVID-19, I automatically went into prayer. And it's because, um, unfortunately, there's individuals, there's children, there's teenagers, there are sick people who have gotten to a place of desperation, not knowing what to do, tired of being sick. And this can also encourage individuals to commit suicide, right? Because if you ingest enough, this is something that can actually kill you with poison.
Yeah.
So just covering the minds of those who do not know and have the lack of knowledge. And so one thing that we can do, those who are in leadership higher up, we have to understand that they're human. And although President Trump is our president, he's also in a place of frustration, right? Because not even him, who is a billionaire, have the answer or cure or medication to
Buy
this.
his way out.
And just as exactly, you know, so just as we're worried for our families and our next, he's worried as well. He's human. And so we have to study. We have to study to show ourselves approved. And we have, whether that's reading the Bible, whether that's Google, right? Because a lot of people are against Google, but to be honest, just a normal person who don't have access, especially now all the libraries are closed. Everybody has a tablet, a phone, a cell phone, a computer. Google things, right? And so in that case, you want to probably Google, is it okay for you to drink bleach? And it'll be warning and caution, right? Because I'm just going to tell you that if you come into the hospital and they say that you drink bleach, we're going to assess you as a crisis worker. And that is actually, you may be hospitalized on our inpatient psych unit because you have at that point attempted to harm yourself. And we want to make sure you're in your right mind. So you do that by just studying, by doing research, doing your own research. Is accessible to us. So it's 2020. We have no excuse of why we cannot find out information, or ask someone, call your family, call your teachers. Oh my God, just giving a hands and a hat off to our educators, just constantly checking in with our children during this time, whether it's via Zoom, via phone. They are your safe place. So it point your children to them, or mental health. People who may struggle with developmental delays or have mental health issues. They have counselors, psychiatrists. They're still available to them. Utilize your resources. They're here for a reason. Utilize them.
One area of concern overall, but in particular in the African American church. Um, for a while, our faith leaders were conflicted with seeing this as a political takeover when it came to, excuse me, needing to close the doors of the church. A lot of people now, I would imagine a lot of pastors are concerned, deeply concerned about how do I get my congregants back into the house of prayer once the doors are reopened, because now um, we've become comfortable, if you will, with sitting at home. So how do we as believers um, return to the household of faith in the physical form, the concrete building, without I don't know. I guess the question is, how do we worship without being consumed with the science of it all?
Yeah, man. That's something that I was actually thinking, God, when thinking about myself personally. How do I go from this? How do I transition from this? Not from a standpoint of just being comfortable, right? Because I used to go to church at least 2 to 3 times a week, and so not to say that being able to be at home has been comfortable for me, but a fear factor a little bit there. Like, how do we recover from this? We go from not being able to be in close contact with one another, but then now we're going into our churches that have 50 plus people in them, who
And
could
hugging
possibly
everybody.
be hugging and
Hugging,
kissing.
because that's a big part of your church family becomes your almost your next of kin, and we show that love through affection, and the
Yeah,
greatest form of affection is just that hugging, or
yeah,
shaking hands, shaking up, all of those
yeah.
things that we
Licking the some of us still use Tide envelopes, right? So licking of the envelopes and putting them in the back, so it's a lot of things that we have been accustomed to, comfortable with for decades, years, generations, that now we have to reevaluate that, right? And so I was thinking it, and in order for us to transition from this, we have to really be strategic. We saw that there was a release of this sheltered in Atlanta, Georgia, and a lot of people were just fearful because they felt it was done too soon. And I can see the strain of even the church. Some, honestly, like for instance, my church, hats off to my pastor, my first lady. They have been doing an awesome job just by trying to keep us in the loop virtually. I mean, we're praying at least 4 times a day. We're having internet services throughout the day, also the weekend. But let's be honest, a lot of us at home are not attending. So not maybe because they don't want to, but maybe they don't have the resources to attend, whether it's not having a computer or not having a phone, or our elders not knowing how to maneuver the devices. So there's a lot of different factors. But then also, to break it down even further, that what about our tithes and our offerings? Our churches now have been pushed to shift into 2020, opening up ways where we can still give and then also connect with one another and commune with one another virtually. A lot of churches before 2020, before this pandemic, had not had those resources available to their congregations. So then a lot of us are still not giving. So then now we still have meat in the house, not just the church house, but even in our houses. Because let's also break it down further. Our church is a resource. So the church has to be a revolving door, a living organism, so that we can continue to help and feed the church, the body of Christ, not just our own personal churches, but the entire body. God looks at the body of Christ, not just our one congregation. So we have to move through this and plan strategically. There has to be protocol procedures in place. It's a shifting and a realignment, not just in the government political, but in the spirit. And so we have to be responsible for the shifting and this moving. There's going to be a deeper level of personal relationship with God, and we're grateful for that, for the revival that's to come, and we'll get through this. But we also have to make sure that we're responsible for lives and families to come. So we have to sit down. Leadership has to sit down, and they have to think of things: how we're going to keep our house clean, how we're going to keep our sheep covered and
Yeah.
protected. As that's the duty. So we have to. Is there a demand on leadership to move and transition from this? And how will we transition from this? And it can't be just a rush done job. We have to think about it. We have to strategically plan and think about it. It may be having a small, only opening the door, still keeping a limit, and building that up. Whatever it may be, whatever works for your house, your leadership, and it not just to all fall on our pastors, right, and our first ladies, because we have to be also understand the gap and the burdens and the weight that they're carrying even now. We're trying to keep everything together, but let's also be there to help and offer sound and wise advice on how do we come together as a unit and transition into this next place.
Especially for those who maybe in their day-to-day jobs, they're in corporate America, who are part of strategy teams on
Yeah,
be it on marketing or organization, to just make sure that you aren't just sitting back waiting to be asked, but to
yeah,
volunteer yourself, and look at it as servanthood, to go in and
yeah,
say, look, there's some strategic things that we could be doing that can make this go a lot smoother, that will allow everyone to be inclusive, because you don't want to isolate any particular group in the body of Christ, no different than you would want to isolate your children at home or what have you, but you're still mindful of the fact that everyone needs their one on one time. So,
absolutely.
can we chat a little bit about that, for the person that has several children at home on maybe different age groups? Maybe I have a 20-year-old, a 14-year-old, and then a 10-year-old. As we know, so that's someone that's going into adulthood, someone who's just entering to teenagehood, and then there's that primary age child. How does that person um, navigate the waters as to making sure that everyone is fed or cared for properly?
One thing that we talk about, and we see this in what we establish as blended families, right? So blended families, I mean, it could be for different backgrounds, different ages, coming together as one. And so that's kind of what we see. Um, so the most important piece of that is language, right? So you can't talk to your 4-year-old the same way you talk to your 14-year-old, but you also can't talk to your husband the same way you talk to your 14-year-old and your 4-year-old. So it's being very intentional, right? So you want to have intentional time, one-on-one time, offer that. But then to go deeper, sometimes we have to know our family. We have to know our house.
Mhm.
And so I may have a child that is more introverted and they're good, give them their tablet, their Sudoku, and you may have to pull them out the room and make them come sit down and have dinner time with you because they're good. If they need you, they'll call you. But if you don't come check on them, they're okay. But you also have that child who likes the attention and the affection, and we have different love languages, and that's not just within our marriage and with our romantic partners, but that's in life. Each child, each individual, each adult receive attention, love, and affection in different ways. So learning, right? Use this time to learn each other's love language. What is it? Is it time? Is it acts of service? Is it affection? Is it duty, service, whatever it may be? Find out what it is. Find out what they like. And even Mika had put me on this like an actual app, like a link where you can actually take the test, right? Or even Google it, love language test.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
it's Dr. Gary Chapman is
Yeah.
the
So
author of the Five Love Languages, and there is an online quiz on his website that you can take for free, that tells you what your love language is, and then have everybody in your household take it.
Yes, it's very straightforward, very simple. So it's not like they're asking anything that's so in depth that now, of course, your 4 year old, maybe not, even, but definitely your 9 year old or 8 year old can sit down and take this test. Now anything under that, they're still learning, you're still learning. So their love languages may not be so important, but definitely making that talk time for them is important. That one on one time and understanding their language is important.
Yeah, I was afforded the opportunity to earlier this year to go and sit in a symposium that Dr. Chapman was at. And one of the things he talked about with understanding love languages, he said that he would come home from work and his son would immediately grab hold to his leg, want to hold on him, want him to pick him up, things of that sort. But his daughter would be in her room and would want to pull him away, and have her to himself. So then he realized that his son's love language was affection and he needed to be hugged and things like that. His daughter's
Yeah.
love language was affirmation. So when she would take him and draw him to her room, she would want him to look at something she made or look at something she had done for him to validate her in that way. So just little telltale signs that we may just say, oh, he just a mama's boy. Well, no, his love language is that of affection. And that's kind of why those kind of things manifest themselves in different forms. So I'm trying to slide through the questions. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything that anyone is asking
Yeah,
because
definitely feel free to ask. And of course, if I don't know, I can, you definitely reach out to Mika or myself, and then we
we'll
can,
repost
further
this.
digest.
We'll repost this on both of our pages. I'll put it on my business page as well, Healthy Hair by Tameka, and I'll
Absolutely.
leave it on my personal page so that anyone can come back in later. Maybe it's something that you thought of after the fact, or even if it's something that you may not feel comfortable with asking in the public forum, feel free to inbox Shayna with that. With that in mind, is there anything in particular that Treasured Mind can offer for personal one-on-one conversation, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. I work with individuals one on one. I also work with groups as well. I am in the process of creating different products and just ways and tools to pour back into the community as resources, whatever that may be. I
Mhm.
also have a mentorship that is for middle-aged women who struggle with just mental barriers, and it's called Poor Mental Poor Mental Mentorship. So these are some of the things that I'm currently working on. It continues to grow and build. It's, of course, I've been working in this field for about 7 years now, but just branching into this sector of doing things kind of independently is new for me. Well, not really. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and I enjoy it. So, of course, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Shayna Batiste. I'm on Facebook at Shayna Smith Batiste. I am my website and everything is currently in the making, so that'll be coming in the near future. But of course, feel free to email me, in which you can find that on my pages, or inbox me, send me a message, and I'll get back to you, of course, with information that I have.
I have enjoyed talking to you. I love the fact that I have you as my sister, but also
Thank
at my fingertips to help me reflect on, turn the mirror on me sometimes, even in just whether it's bouncing um, ideas off from a business standpoint to just bouncing thought processes off of you as well. So I'm grateful for having you one on one.
I am
I've
grateful
been,
for you.
yeah, this has been great conversation. I've enjoyed every bit of it. Like we said, feel free if you still have questions to go ahead and visit Shayna either in her inbox. If you're on Facebook, then it's Shayna Smith Baptiste. And there you are, spelled their last name spelled Batteast, and a
Yep.
Smith before that, and the same on on Instagram. It's just Shayna Batiste.
Yes.
But we are grateful for the
Thank
gift that you
you.
have, spiritually speaking, as well as clinically speaking, because one thing that we do know is that oftentimes in the minority community, therapy is shunned upon, and nobody wants to be looked at as crazy. That's the
Right.
stereotyping
Yeah.
that has gone on, along with seeking sound therapy. And so we're grateful that there are Christians that have taken this up and offering answers other than just pray about it.
Right. Absolutely. Um, yeah. And let's speak to that, right? Because therapy and counseling is just not for those who have been diagnosed with um, a mental diagnosis.
Hmm.
Therefore, those who have mental issues, which are moments that you're just having a hard time, there is those that may have addiction. It may be those that are transitioning, maybe going off to college, getting married. It's for the married couple who are having they're in love, but they have moments and things that they have to work through. We
Hmm.
call it maintenance, right? You just like you have to take your car. You may drive a Lexus, a 2020, but you still have to take it to get oil change, right? You still
Yeah.
have to take it to get your tires rotated. So it doesn't mean that you have to be broken or have an issue or diagnosis that has to be maintained with medication and therapy. You can just need maintenance. And as individuals, even myself being a counselor, I have to go for maintenance. I cannot counsel and not be under counsel, right? So I have to
Mm.
create, I have to be, I have to always have my mind, and not only, of course, God and prayer, but I also have to be in alignment. I have to be in alignment in order and I have to be submitted under the process. I cannot be over people. And that's for leaders. That's for whatever field you're in. You should seek someone out that you can create a safe place with so
Yeah.
that you don't have to carry the burden and load by yourself. Mika mentioned that she's grateful for us being able to bounce just as she bounced things off of me. I do the same for her and with her. I have a mentor who I have to do the same thing, counselor, same thing. And so
Hmm.
I'm grateful to be able to not have, I don't know it all. No one knows it all. We don't have all the answers. And that's how we relieve stress and worry to know it's okay to not know it all. It's okay not to have it all together. It's okay not to be perfect. It's okay not
Yeah.
to know step C, but know A and B. It's okay. We're human, but we can
Hmm.
figure it out together, community, right? So that's important. That's an important piece. That counseling is it helps you realign, readjust, and identify and move forward.
One last thing that came to mind while you were speaking. Um, Also, in our culture, we are told from the time that we are children, what goes on in this house
Oh,
stays in this house. Um,
no, hate is that word, but strong word.
and it's such a stigmatism that it places over the freedom to be able to express oneself. Can you, if there are parents that are joining us now or that will look at this later, is there anything that you'd like to say with reference to taking that piece of I don't want to call it misguidance because I don't want to speak out of my realm, taking that cliche
Yeah.
and using it as a parenting tool?
So can we? My desire is to just to break that generational curse. That don't say what goes on in the house has kept a lot of victims who have been sexually abused, physically abused, in silence, hurting. Some of them have even taken their lives because they felt that they didn't have anybody to reach out to. The most important thing that we can do as an adult is to encourage our children, our families to be healthy. If
Yeah.
you cannot talk to me, if you don't feel comfortable releasing what you're going through to me, please identify someone that you are safe with.
Hmm.
That may be your aunt, that may be your
Yes.
godmother, that may be your grandmother. As family, as adults, it's insensitive to put on your children the burden of secrets, right? And you
Hmm.
may not know that that's what you're doing, but if you're doing things in the home and then you're telling them, oh, don't tell what goes on in my house outside, it's very it's a double-mindedness, it's confusion, and it's a lot of pressure and weight on a child that is already trying to figure out how to maneuver and put words on what they're already dealing with and going through, and then sprinkle a little bit of hormonal things that they have to go through at times as well. So we don't want to say what goes on in a house stays in a house, and that doesn't mean just
Yes.
specifically talking about our home and our houses. That's talking about the church, because we know that individuals have been hurt in churches. That's talking about at school with your teachers. That's talking about at daycares, wherever your children go. They need to be able to know that you have their back and that you are advocating for them to be healthy and whole and free. And so we want, and even as adults, I can recall, I'm still, I guess, I don't know really when newlyweds end, but I still, I guess it only be 3 years. So I guess I'll say I'm still a newlywed. And one of the things that I struggled with in during the beginning of being a newlywed was feeling like I was the only person going through what I was going through, and which made me hold it in and try to figure it out and do the research and carry the burden of, I don't get this. This wasn't like this before I said I do, but now this is, what am I supposed to do? And
Yeah.
should I be embarrassed, or should I be concerned or whatever? Carrying that weight, false burden and weight, thinking that the marriage that lasts or has is lasting or have been married for 20 years, they got it. No, they had to work through it. They had to go through things too. And it's okay. So I had to begin to create a community among my friends and just find people that I felt safe with, that I knew that was standing and praying and rooting for my marriage, right? So
Yeah.
not just for me, for my marriage. So if I was to
Makes a
talk to them, or
difference.
at least it's a big difference. And so if I was to talk to them, they weren't going to encourage me to. Now, of course, if it's in danger of something, they would say, "Hey, I advise you to walk away." But how can I stand in agreement with you in this situation, in this moment? And it allowed me to release those false burdens, and it allowed me to continue to grow and move forward and to understand it's okay. So even in adulthood, that thing of what goes on in a house, stay in a house, that could be a burden for you. So don't carry false
Absolutely.
burdens. Yeah, don't think that you can't reach out to people and talk to people or find help or go to counseling, whatever, or get a therapist, whatever it may be. Get the help you need for your life.
Specifically as it relates to marriage, that is one thing that you'll hear couples who've been married for a length of time. They'll say, keep people out your marriage, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
when newlyweds or when young brides, I say young because I feel like I've been married. Well, ain't no feel
well,
like
you
I've
have to.
literally been married for half my life. Um, when they come to me and just to discuss different things, I try to be as encouraging yet still as transparent as I can possibly be because I want to make sure that they realize that there's nothing wrong with you. This is just the reality of how things may go because I'm a firm believer that you are slowly introducing yourself to your spouse as you become acquainted to yourself.
Yeah,
So situations on and in the workplace will kind of change your perception of life and daily living. So you
yeah,
have it. So when it changes your perception, then it changes your identity. So then you
yeah,
have to introduce yourself and continue to reintroduce yourself to your spouse. I know
yeah,
that in this current climate that we're in, I'm becoming something additional.
yeah,
Um, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
when we get to the other side of this, there's a piece of me once it gets settled and once I begin to understand what that is or completely become able to compartmentalize the feelings associated with being displaced, I'll then owe it to my husband to reintroduce him to this new version of me once
yeah,
again. And I think that that's something that's constant that you have to do. As life hits you, you have to continue to reintroduce yourself because, for example, your love language may have been gifts, and that worked for 23-year-old you, a new purse, a new bag. But
yeah,
43-year-old you could care less about the purse because your entertainment choices have changed anyway. 43-year-old you may just need a listening ear, or 43-year-old you just may need a hug. So it's important to A, reintroduce yourself to yourself, and then B, reintroduce yourself to your spouse, because they simply may not get what just transpired. But as long as you suffer in silence, they'll never understand your new set of needs. At least that's my take. I don't know if that's
No,
clinically correct, but
and you're right on. You're right on point. You're right on point, and you rob one another from being able to be support. Because if, in order for us to be the wife, the mother, the friend, the sister that we are supposed to be, we first have to be the healthy individual that we were created to be. And so if
mhm,
I'm not taking care of myself, if I'm not pouring into me, if I'm not remembering who I am and who God has created me to be, and that I am a daughter, that there's no way for me to really be in alignment and attached healthily to something or someone else. And that's just the bottom line. And so we have to
man,
continuously work on us, continuously be aware, and continuously have a safe net of people, right? Because sometimes we can be out of order and wrong and not know it,
and
because we think
man,
we right and we want it our way and no other way. But you need that person and that balance, right? Whether it's a friend, a whatever it may be, to
mhm.
pull your coattail and say, "Hey, actually, no, you're wrong." To
There,
put you back in
growing
the
up
way.
at my home church, there was a couple that had been married for like 75 years or more before one of the two of them passed away. And naively, I would say, "Oh, I want to grow old together and make 75 years." Oh, they're so, and then with that, you put those added pressures on yourself because you see the end result, but you aren't
Yeah,
privy to the beginning in the middle, right? So it's kind of like even in our own families. I adored my grandparents. I adored how they loved on one another, right? But I was not privy to their newlywed years or their 10-year together and things like that. So sometimes trying to mm, fast forward to the end result adds pressure as well, because you miss out on the learning process in the middle, is what I've come to learn. Which is
mm-hmm.
why you can't covet what you believe someone else has. You
Yeah,
can't be envious of what you believe that someone else has, or how it is that you believe that you're supposed to look like. But because you don't know the back end, like spiritually speaking, you'll hear people say all the time, "Oh, you don't know the cost of this anointing."
that's true story.
I want to pray like he prayed.
Because we begin to idolize the message and not the ministry and the marriage, right, of it. We begin to idolize what is being displayed and what they're working hard to display, the leadership of what they're trying to present, right? But you don't really understand and covet the marriage or the ministry of what's really underlining, and the oil and the breaking and everything that has to come so that they can deliver that message. So we begin to idolize what we see on the surface.
Yeah.
And so, or not knowing even where the seed was once planted in the soil, the ground. And I had to learn that. Yeah.
Even just that particular couple, and I definitely won't name names. If you know
Yeah.
them, you know them. But one of the things that in the very beginning part of my marriage, and probably in the center too, was that this couple, one spouse was a member of our church, the other spouse was a member of a different church. But then when the other has had a special day at church, they would support one another in that way. So I figured, hey, I should be able to do the same thing. And
Mhm.
I just couldn't understand why it was so difficult for me. Like, I've seen it work and they've been married for decades. So surely it can work for us. You just aren't being understanding. You're being irrational. Like,
But
seriously, that's exactly how I
yeah,
felt in the beginning. It's like, what is wrong with him? Exhibit A. They have been going to separate churches
exactly.
for
And that's
63
that's
years.
Jamal. Exactly. And that's Jamal and I. You know, we go to separate two different churches right now. We serve at two different locations. And it's funny, but then interesting because our pastors were actually best friends and we had crossed paths and from each other from birth, not even knowing we never knew one another until the time God destined for us to meet and as friends. But I guess there's layers to that. But then you also have to understand that if there's the calling that is on your life, and then also the assignments that are on your life, and then also purpose has a lot to do with that. And so purpose, calling, and assignment, because that's what God created us for, right? We made the decision to become covenant married, but God created us in eyesight and he had a vision and plan for us and it made and whatever that they have been that takes privy and precedent to our desires. And sometimes we have to, I know a lot of tradition and religion, you know, it say you got to do this, you got to do that. But really, our desire is to be obedient to God. And so we have to constantly seek. I know for me, I mean, I'd be okay with it, but then I go back into prayer about it because I'm like, okay, God, are we moving at the right pace? Are we supposed to be where we at? You know, what's going on? You know,
It's from
um,
that
it's
comparisonitis.
not exactly, you know, because you see the couple who are serving and worshiping together, and then you know that your husband, but because we're on assignment, we're at two different houses. And so our desire is to be obedient to the call on our lives, to be obedient to what God created us for, because he's a son and I'm a daughter, and so that's more that takes privy to that. Yes, we believe in order. Yes, we believe in alignment, all of that. Not to say that we don't support one another, not to say that our pastors don't cover the both of us and pour into us and speak wisdom and prophesy into our life and then give clarity for our assignments in the earth. And we're grateful for that. We're grateful for our coverings for those reasons. But like you say, it goes back to that comparison. It can become discouraging or cause friction and strife even at times if you are not, if that comparison does come up and if you're not in a place of acceptance.
Mm-hmm. That is, whew, that's a whole. So we don't want a whole another route talking about something. We don't went
Yeah,
from. We've gone from COVID. Um, uh,
right,
what should we say? COVID coping
right. Coping.
um,
Yeah.
to
Wellness.
trials and errors and things that are pressing in the home. But I'm really grateful once again that you definitely just unpacked that piece on what goes on in this house stays in this house and how that can be so unhealthy and just
Yeah,
bringing clarity to what the true definition of privacy is. And privacy doesn't necessarily mean silence. So
absolutely. Having those boundaries,
yeah.
putting things into place, of course, teaching order, teaching respect, discipline. Absolutely, we have to teach our children that. We have to train our children. That's our responsibility. But when it comes to pain, secrets, hurt, we want them to be able to be healthy. We want them to create safe places to disclose those things. Absolutely.
So once again, if anyone that's watching or that will watch this later on, if you are interested or in need of a counselor or in of counsel or just therapy, feel free to inbox Shayna on Facebook. She's Shayna Smith Baptiste, and the spelling of her name, I'm sorry, is underneath her picture right now through Zoom, and she's available through her organization, Treasured Minds LLC. And then she also mentioned that she has a mentorship program for middle aged women called Pour. So if that's something that you find yourself in need of, just if a visionary, a sounding board, just sound counsel, feel free to reach out to her. Don't be ashamed. And if there's a question once again that you may think of later and you want to ask later, feel free to enter that in the comment field underneath this thread. If it's something that you want to dive a little more personable into with her, then go ahead and hit her on the DM. Well, you ain't trying to get no date, so we can't say slide into your DM. But go ahead and inbox her with those concerns and those matters of your heart. Thank you again, Shana. I love you
Thank you.
wholeheartedly.
I love you. Thank you so much.
And
And this
this
was
was a
just an
great
awesome
conversation.
idea. Bringing the outer body with the mind. I've been watching you all week, so I caught myself putting putting some stuff on my eyes and the lips,
From
because I'm like,
Wednesday.
right, because I'm like, and I took the chip polish, polish on here. So I took the chip polish on it, but it has
Um,
been encouraging to just that you care, right? Not just on the outer appearance, but your message is being healthy, and not just the physical health, but also mental health. Thank you for that.
yeah, and thank you. So tonight's topic overall was, yeah, you look good. Now what? And
Yeah,
so you have really been able to help us unpack what that really means. And we appreciate that. And you mentioned your nails. So I want to make sure that everyone is aware that we're going to sort of do a recap on day one because we had technicalities and we couldn't afford Corinne this same platform uninterruptedly. Like we ended up doing a Instagram live. And so, as we know, that video does not last longer than 24 hours. So, we're going to come back midday on tomorrow. I'll post about that a little later on this evening. We'll come back midday on tomorrow and have a conversation again with foot care, foot health, in home homeopathic ways to care for your feet. We'll be talking about that again on tomorrow afternoon. So, we're going to add a
awesome.
bonus conversation with Corinne so that, like I said, so she'll be afforded the same opportunity without the interruptions. So thank you again. It's been
Thank you.
nice, everybody. Thank you for your questions. Keep them coming if you will, if you'd like, if you need. And we
Yeah.
will chat with you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.